Today on Is It Worth It? I think the idea of time travel is something longed for by mostly everyone. If not for justice by correcting acts of the past, it'd probably be utilized to correct those tiny mistakes we all— Especially you, John! Make. Remember that time you called your grade school teacher daddy, and she looked at you unsure whether to be offended or deeply aroused? I'm sidetracking. Erased is a mystery who done the kill and that stuff anime by Studio Fuck You, You Fucking Fucks, otherwise known as A1 Pictures. If you fuck up Phoenix Wright, I will never forgive you. Never. Originally written by Ken Sanbe and directed by Tomohiko Ito, known for such works as... Holy shit. Cut the music. What? Cut the music! He did what? He did... what? I'm gonna vomit. Boku dake ga Inai Machi tells the story of Satoru Fujinuma, a pretty simple guy with a pretty simple face who gets the ability to travel his ass back to the land of the dinosaurs.
What is your name? Maybe you cannot talk yet, huh?
Sound interesting? Too bad, because that's actually not what happens at all. Erased incorporates a main plot progression of this little guy trying to save this little girl, Kayo, by a process he calls revival. The stakes are high. Satoru's been sent back to the past to change the future and isn't sure he'll get a second chance in this life or death situation. Kayo, in the current timeline, is dead, and it becomes apparent quickly that this is a race against the clock in figuring out how to prevent such an outcome, along with a discrete string of child murders. But that's the charm of Erased, the uncertainty of whether or not Satoru's actions change the fates of those around him. Time here is fragile, as any choice he makes may impact the future tremendously, all of the butterfly effect. Putting himself on the line for others, Satoru is put to the test in finding the best possible solution for those depending on him to change their outcomes, using nothing but wit and means available to a 10-year-old. He's a good kid, with selfless intentions. Kayo, our primary victim, is a classmate of the 10-year-old Satoru, and the first to be murdered in the current timeline. By means of observation, Satoru perceives Kayo's at-home situation and how different her attitude towards life is as a result. Kayo lives a life full of situations that have limited her joy and molded her into a piece of wet bread and molded her into an apathetic little girl. This is more than enough of a reason to take action, and Satoru readily accepts the responsibility, for better or for worse. Erased's story is another beast entirely. I'll tell you now, you are not watching Erased for its narrative.
自分で見てみろ。なるほどってなんだよ。
While Erased does begin with an interesting premise, you are better off understanding that this is not a mystery. It's a thriller. You're watching because of the characters. You're curious as to how things will turn out, whether Satoru's efforts are validated as characters are saved, or coming to the realization that they've been doomed from the start. The adrenaline of seeing these actions occur on screen, not trying to perceive what's coming next, that's Erased's strength. This, however, doesn't completely safeguard some issues that arose during my viewing. A couple ideas and their executions fell short of the otherwise well-directed and generally positive viewing of Erased. Erased hurts itself by not allowing the audience more of a chance to speculate who the main villain is, by neglecting its cast. Side characters are introduced, only to be discarded after they've worked to heighten the suspense temporarily. For example, the character of Irie acts as an ally to Satoru in several earlier scenes, yet she doesn't have a lasting impact. She only serves to set up the stage for the next scene. If you're at all perceptive, you'll have no trouble guessing who the killer is very early on, considering the possibilities are limited when you force the rest of your supporting cast out of the picture. Where the fuck is Irie? I don't see her over here. Where the fuck did she go? Where the fuck is Irie? You know what, while we're on the subject, I got more shit to pick with you. Another gripe with the anime. We don't get to know why certain characters act the way they do. Seeing as the anime is all I've consumed at the time, and all I plan to, this was a lingering problem for me. If you're going to kill people, tell us why. Tell us what developed that motive. Otherwise, you're just Anime Hitler. And no one likes Anime Hitler. Finally, my biggest complaint towards Erased is that the sense of danger lay dormant with Satoru. While the series begins with Satoru unable to control his revival skill, happening only to prevent deaths occurring in his current timeline, it seems that this restraint is soon abandoned. This creates the idea that revival was just a simple deus ex machina to bridge plot together hastily. Not only that, we as the audience are never presented with Satoru having a failure. Imagine how much more engaging it would be if we witnessed the repercussions of a choice that Satoru clearly fucked up, something incorrigible becoming fixed in its now reality. But we didn't get anything like that. Everything seemed to work out in the end. With Erased's animation, well, what are you? Blind? Look at it, shit's pretty, it's good. I think. Fuck man, don't look at me like that. Erased has plenty of composition shots, and as someone who gets off on world building, I'm happy. Satoru's town feels like an actual place you could take a tour of, and we as the viewer get to explore it through his eyes. But the main appeal of the animation is how effectively it showcases the cast's emotions. A1 Pictures, while I don't tend to like many of their shows, do know how to animate well in certain instances. Erased doesn't pull any punches for facial animation, and for that, I applaud it. Couple this with some killer OST, composed by the illustrious Yuki Kajura of Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero fame, and you're going to be swayed into the emotional tide that occasionally presents itself.
Tadaima. 母さん。
To sum it all up, Erased is an interesting anime. Although, Erased is filled with holes that will probably never see resolution in its animated adaptation. And maybe that's not for the best. While Erased does indeed suffer from self-harm in instances regarding its plot structure and storytelling, it manages to pull off what it jumps to execute particularly well. Seeing the motivation of Satoru made this show for me. I admit, I was definitely invested in these characters, be it some far more than others. This in turn is what will ultimately decide whether you enjoy Erased or not. Much of the interactions between characters are given their respective importance, with scenes brilliantly showcasing emotional heaviness that corresponds. All these scenes feel appropriate, and were a pleasure to view. Except for that chocolate thing, what the fuck was that? I don't regret watching Erased, as there's enough enjoyment here to be had. Therefore, I humbly rank it a C rating. Erased does begin to fall apart into a lackluster pile of goop during its final quarter. But for the rest of the ride, I was treated to a nice little story. A story about getting a second chance. And if you've got some spare downtime lying around, you might want to give Erased just that. A chance. Hey guys, 2C Not Enough Data here. I want to thank you for watching, and I also want to explain a teensy bit. I know a lot of you are here because of my parodies, and don't worry, they're not going away completely. I just wanted to try something new, and hopefully you guys understand that. I appreciate the continued support, and I hope this was something you guys found fun and refreshing. I'm interested though, what parts of Erased made or broke the series for you? What made you like the show, or hate it? Thanks, and see you around.
I actually lost my virginity in the butt first.
No, you didn't.
Did so.
Come on, whoa!